last day we have discussed about how a function works, right? And we have seen an example of function also. So today what we will do, it's our plan is that we will go through two things. One we call pointer and second one we call structure. So this as a prerequisite of data structure. But to understand what a pointer is, let's try to realize from a situation. And situation comes from the function. Suppose the program is given to you, program 1, write a program for swapping two data. Swapping two data. So that means if you have two numbers, you want to swap data, and if you want to use function, what you can do. For example, let's take a situation, you have a main function, and here we have a variable, say int a and b also, and suppose a contains 10 and b contains 20. And here, suppose I have used swap function as a, say, void function. Swap void. Oh, sorry, I have to pass this a and b. Fine. And why I'm saying it is a void function? Because ultimately after swapping, somehow if you print here a and b, basically it should print 10 and 20. But after swapping, if you print, it should be 20 and 10 somehow, right? Now, there is a boundation of a function. That function cannot return more than one value at a time. That means at a time after swapping, you cannot return both a and b. So that's why I have considered them as a void. There is no other choice. So if we consider this now swap as a void function, so if we define swap function, it will look something like this. Since at the time of calling swap function, I have passed two parameters. That's why as it is, I have taken two parameters to take the value. And here I can apply the simple logic of swapping. I can write z equal to x equal to y, and y equal to z, and done. Sorry. And if you print the value as x comma y, this part will basically print 20 comma 10. And here it was 10 comma 20. So as if data has been swapped. But if I print data over here, the same data, print a comma b, basically it will show same 10 comma 20. That means the data I passed to you may be swapped in your place, but if I want that the same thing will actually reflect in my part also, it is not possible over here. You see, if you take the diagram with respect to the current scenario, it will be, this is your main function and you had a and b over here. This is a and this is b. So a contains 10 and b contains 20. And when you are calling this swap function is taking 10 and 20 as a parameter because of this a comma b. So it is swap function. And we have x here. We have y here. And obviously we have z here also. That is for use temporarily to store something of x or y. So when you are calling this one, actually what's happening, as we have seen in previous class, that the value of a is being copied over here, right? That's why x contains 10. Value of b is copied over here. That's why it contains 20. Now when you are swapping within this swap function, this 10 now becomes 20 and 20 now becomes 10. That is okay, fine. But you see, they are not reflecting the part of a and b within this main function. The reason is that the way that I passed, I mean when I'm calling, at the time of calling the swap function, I passed the value of A and B. That means the problem for which this changes in A and B is not possible is that there is no way to use these variables directly from here in the swap function. So that means the foundation is because of, you see, that suppose you are in this swap function, standing within swap function, you cannot touch this variable A and B. If you are able to do this, then you can directly put data over here 20 and directly put data in B as 10. Now, why this touching is not possible? The touching is not possible because of a specific reason, technically, what we call scope. So what is scope? Scope actually, if we define it, scope define the particular area of a program within which a variable can be accessed. Now, what does it mean? It means that, let's take an example. Say example is your nickname. In a very simple situation, we can assume that your nickname is accessible only within your home. Nobody outside your house understand or know your nickname. So that means scope of your name, your nickname is only within your home. So this particular area, the particular area that I have defined over here is nothing but your home in that case. Now, how we can, and this is what? This is actually, I should write scope of a variable. Scope is about a variable. So that means if I assume that, if you go back, so that means what is scope of A and scope of B? It's very easy to realize. Always remember, scope of a variable is defined by in between the latest opening brace before the variable has declared till the end of the corresponding closing brace. So just latest opening brace before declaration of A was this one and corresponding variable was this one. That means A is accessible within this scope. Similar for B. That means that is the reason why A and B was not accessible over here. So that means here I have a boundary or a limitation that after this site or outside that particular logical block, you cannot access A and B directly. But that is a problem. So what to do? Actually, this is the reason why the pointer was needed. So pointer was needed over here. Now let's define what is a pointer. Technically, you can define pointer as a variable which can store address of another variable. So I can say that pointer is a variable which can store address of another variable. Now, what is the benefit of using this? Let's see. You see, that means if I consider I have a simple function, main function, where I have a variable say int A whose value suppose is 10. And how to define a pointer? We can define a pointer, say, as a star p. Now I have written int before this. Why? Because always remember the data type of pointer depends upon the data type of the variable whose value, whose addresses I am going to store within the pointer. What I mean? I mean, if I consider this is the whole memory space in my computer, in a whole memory space in the computer, and somewhere here, this A has been declared. Suppose its address is 100 and its content is 10, as I have written over here. And also I have defined one more variable, that is P, which is acting as a pointer, and whose address may be say 200. Now, what I want to store, as considering this definition, it can store address of another variable. That means as an example, I can try to store address of this variable A within this P. So content of a pointer is always an address. Content of a pointer cannot be a simple value. In other side, content of a simple variable can never be an address. It will contain some value. Now in actual scenario, obviously address is not defined with something like 100 and 200. Address is actually defined in some different way. But to realize the current situation, we have considered, suppose address is 100 and address of P is 200. So what I want to store? I want to store address of this variable A. So that means somehow I have to store 100. And how I can do this? I can write P equal to an address operator, that is what we call ampersand A. So this ampersand actually means address. So ampersand A means what I can say? Address of A. As simple as that. So due to execution of this particular line, the address of A will get stored over here. Now, the beauty is that I have two ways to change the variable A. And what are the way? Say I can write A equal to A plus 1. If you write this one, then what will happen? This 10 will get replaced by 11. Fine. But I have one more way to do the same. That is what I can write. Pointer P equal to pointer P plus 1. Use that means somehow writing A is equivalent writing pointer P. That means what this pointer P is basically doing, since P contain address of A, that means I can say that P basically point the content of A. Since P can point content of A and P was a pointer variable, that is why you can control this content of A by using pointer. You don't need to touch the variable, and that is the beauty of pointer. So that means I can say that P is basically, if you consider P, this is nothing but an address. It is representing an address. This P is an address. Sorry, ampersand P is an address. But pointer P is something what I can say data. Data means data of some other variable, value of some other variable that I have seen over here. So that means now see, since we can control a variable from another variable, now we can say that the problem that we have faced for swapping to data can be overcome. How we can do this? So here, let's understand one more thing regarding function. So generally we have seen till now in case of function at least, we have seen that a function can return values only, but it is not true always. That means parameter that I am passing through the function, there is also two things. First one, passing value, that is possible over here, that I have passed here, which is not basically helping me to change the value of A and B in my side. And second one, now I can do one thing, that passing address. This part actually we call by value, call the function by value. This part what we call by reference. This reference means nothing but address. So now let's see what benefit I can get if we use this address instead of passing value. Now I will write the same thing. Say I have a main function. Within main function I have two variables A and B, and I have declared them A equal to 10 and B equal to 20. And again I will call swap function, and it has to be void. There is no other choice. But now instead of passing directly A and B, here I will pass their addresses. So I want to swap something. Instead of giving the value to you, I am giving the address of the variables to you. So okay, how I can give address? By ampersand A and ampersand B. Fine. And in your side, if you see, I have again, you are this void function, void swap. And in your side, you have to store this address in your variable, but address cannot be stored in a simple variable. That means you need a pointer. So if you declare two pointer in your side, say int pointer x and say int pointer y, then basically what's happening? You see, that means I have main function over here like this. This is my main function. And here I have two variables. One is A and one is B similarly. Its address say 100. Its address suppose 200. And suppose its content is 10 and 20. Now when I am calling you, I am basically passing not 10 and 20, rather I am passing this address of A and address of B, that is 100 and 200. Now in your side, you have two variables at least. One is X and one is Y, and suppose their address is say 500 and 600 for time being. Now what is content of X and Y? The content of XY is not 10 and 20 right now. Rather, content of X will be 100 and content of Y will be 200. Now from the idea of pointer, what we have seen, that if it contains this address, it can point this and it can control this. So that means if I have address, that means if you get address of my variables, then you can easily control those variables. Even you are out of scope. You see, you are now in swap function, and this A and B variable is in the main function. The scope of A and B is limited over here within main only. But since I have given you the addresses, that means I have given you the key to access them even outside the outside the scope of the A and B. So now pointer X is equivalent to A, that we have seen over here, this one. Similarly, pointer Y is equivalent to B. Now you see, I can replace these statements that I written over here by writing pointer. So I will obviously need a temporary variable, say int t. So I will initially store the first value, that is 10, within t. But what I will write, I will not write x. If I write x, it will be wrong. Why? Because x, content of x is not a value. Rather, I want to store this 10 within this temporary variable. That's why I will write pointer x. So that means whatever content of a, that means if you see that I have one more variable t over here, so what will happen? This content of a will get stored over here, 10. Fine. Now, here I had x equal to y. So basically, what does it mean? I want to now copy that. You see, that means 10 is temporarily stored over here. So I can copy 20 over here. So how to do this? So I can say that pointer x is equal to pointer y, because this will reflect directly. Though you are in this place, still this code will reflect directly within this particular main function. So pointer x means a. So this part will be 10 will be replaced by 20, because pointer y means content of b, that is 20. Fine. Now you can write pointer y equal to t. So what I had stored over here, that will be now replaced over here. So that means now content of u will become 10. And if you stop here and see, though you are in swap function, this is swap function, though you are in swap function, but still, since you have address of a and b, you can control this a and b from even outside of main function. So that means if we print this a and b over here now this will give 20 and 10, because you are able to swap them outside even main function, because you have the address of a and b with you and you have the pointers. So that means one thing we have seen over here, that is pointer store address. Now address of some variable. Now next question is that what is data type of a pointer? Actually, pointer has no specific data type. Data type of a pointer depends data type of the variable whose address I am going to store within the pointer. I mean, if we consider that say I have a variable character variable char c equal to, say I am writing a like this, so that means I can assume that I have a variable c in my memory space whose value is a, and say whose address is 200. Now if we want to store this address within another pointer variable, say p, that means I have to write p equal to ampersand c. That is true. But what will be the data type of the pointer? In that case, pointer data type should be char also, because the address whose value that I am storing, that the address whose value I am storing is nothing but a character. Okay. Now there is many things about, lot of things about pointer actually. You know, if you start understanding pointer, it will take many classes to realize how pointer works in various aspects. But since our goal is to learn the data structure, so that's why we have to go through in a very nutshell. So you can find lot of books where you can go through the pointer in much more detail. But we will here learn the need of pointer from some specific aspect that we have in data structure. A very important thing that we have, that where pointer is used, is basically, we can say, dynamic memory allocation. So what is dynamic memory allocation? I am coming very soon. But before that, so that means here, let's first categorize this memory allocation. What memory allocation mean? Memory allocation means when you are using some variable, obviously the variable name that you are using, that is nothing but the identifier. But ultimately, if you consider the RAM within your machine, the RAM doesn't contain any variable then. Actually, RAM has lot of memory locations. So somehow there is a mapping between the variable name that you are using with a specific memory location that you have in the RAM. So when you are program is running and or program is being compiled, how the memory for those variables are allocated. So memory allocation deals with this question. Now this memory is allocated actually in two different ways. The one we call static memory allocation, and one we call dynamic memory allocation. Now, what is the difference between them? The foremost difference, main difference that we have among these two is the memory is allocated in this case in compilation time. And the memory is allocated in this case at runtime. So what does compilation time and runtime mean, and what effect we will get? Compilation time memory allocation means that when the program, if you want to execute a program, before executing it, the high level language should be converted to some specific other low level languages and then it executes. The compiler is there to convert this one. So at the time of compiling your program from high level language to low level language, this static memory allocation is done. For example, declaring an array that you have seen, already you have done, say int A5. This is a static memory allocation. So what happened? That at the time of compilation, this memory block is declared, allocated. Now what problem we can face in static memory allocation is that once you declare a memory, the memory declaration is fixed for the entire execution of the program. That means somehow, suppose that you have written a main, then you have used a say array, say 100, and then you have many other program and variable declaration, and the program is a long program, and you have written this one. Now suppose that you have never used this array A throughout in your program, just you have declared this. But also what will happen, since this is static memory allocation, the programmer, the compiler doesn't care about whether this particular memory location has been used or not. The memory will be occupied for this particular array. So we know in Turbo C++ 32-bit environment, the size of an integer variable is 2 byte. So that means I can say that at least this array will occupy 200 byte. So that means this 200 byte is totally wasted. We have not used that, though it is occupied. Now we have one more situation. Suppose you have some other variables declared over here, and you have used them, and suddenly after using some part, you have not used them in the whole part. You have not used this program in the whole part. So this program is used only in this part, Now after this portion, when control come in this second portion, this variable is not needed to use. That means, although you don't need those variables, but still the variable will occupy some memory in your RAM. Just because those memory was allocated in static memory as a static memory allocation. And it is a problem. It is a problem when you have a very large program, a number of memory locations you need to store the variables, and you have a very limited amount of memory locations. So if you have a lot of variables to work with, and if you have a small number of memory locations, in that case, obviously, you have to use those memory locations very efficiently. That means it would be better if you are able to, allocate the memory whenever it is required and deallocate the memory whenever my job is completed, so that the same memory location can be used by other variable at some other point of time. So this is actually what dynamic memory allocation does. Dynamic memory allocation say that don't need to declare variable at static at combination time. Rather, you declare memory allocation whenever you require. And if it is not required, after some time, just you can delete that. So from this point of view, dynamic memory allocation has an enormous role in some large applications. If you go for dynamic memory allocation, how we can do this? The static memory allocation, we are habituated. So there is nothing to realize how we can declare a memory statically. But dynamic memory allocation is a new to us. So how to do this? We can declare dynamic memory allocation to declare a variable using dynamic memory allocation. The first thing that we require is a pointer. Okay. So let's see. Till now, how we are habituated to declare an array. We are habituated to declare an array in this way. And then somewhere maybe you have used this array in this program. And this is what actually static memory allocation. But if you go for dynamic, if you think that no, that means using this one in your memory space, array will be declared. So 0 to 9. And this declaration is static declaration. Since it is static declaration, you can never delete this memory address, delete this array if job is completed. It will be deleted whenever program execution will stop, not before that. Now, if you want to do the same thing, but now with respect to dynamic memory allocation, let's see how we can do this. We have to use a pointer first of all. So now what pointer? What is the data type of the pointer? Obviously, data type of the pointer will be integer, because the array that I am going to create is an integer array. So that means The data type will be integer, say int pointer p. And there is a specific function that is used for declaring a memory dynamically. The function name is called malloc. So how we can write the line? Let's write it and then I'll explain it. So we write in this way, p equal to, within a bracket, int pointer, then malloc, then here you have to put size of the memory you want to declare. So that means, and it is in byte. Obviously, this is in byte. Sorry. In byte. The unit is in byte. So that means if you write 10, it means 10 byte of memory location will be dynamically allocated, where you can store some integer value. Similarly, if you write 20, that means 20 byte of memory address you can store. So how we can manage this one? Now suppose that how many bytes you don't know. Suppose you don't know. It depends upon how many bytes an user require. Suppose the user require, if I execute the program, maybe I require 5 memory addresses. That means I require an array of 5 memory locations. And if another person run the program, that another person say require 10 memory locations in the array. So that means this size will vary. So for my case, size will be say 10 byte. For other places, size will be 20 byte. So it entirely depends upon what is the data type as well as how many bytes, how many elements I want to declare. What I mean to say that we have an array. If the array contain only say 4 locations, and if it is an integer array, that means it is taking 8 byte. If I consider I have say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 locations, it will take 12 byte. So 8 or 12, it totally depend upon what? Depends upon n into 2. What is 2? 2 is basically size of integer, 2 byte. And what is n? N is actually nothing but user input. So if I have a user input n, obviously I have to declare as a programmer, you have to write the code in such a way that you have to declare a memory location of 2n byte. Now how we can do this? That means here, instead of writing 10 over here, I can write 2 into n, as simple as that. And this n will be user input. So before this here, maybe I can write a scanf statement that will basically scan n, and depends on this value of n, some location will be occupied. Now, every time, it may not be possible that you know how many bytes individual element take. In case of integer, I know 2. In case of float, I know 4. In case of character, I know it's 1. But in case of some other thing, situation, in case of some structure is also a memory location. A data type. Then you don't know. That means somehow I have to get what is the size of that particular data type. That is what we can do by using a specific function. The function name is what we call size of. Now let's write it properly. The function name is, say, if I write, for example, suppose I have an int, say A, okay, and if I write int A equal to size of int, it will basically return 2 within A. And if you print A, it will print 2. Why? Because size of integer is 2. So we have a inbuilt function within C that is a size of. This size of function will return size of a particular data type. Instead, if it is int, it may return 2 or maybe 4, depends upon the compiler. So that means in a general situation, this line can be written as P equal to int pointer malloc, then within bracket size of say int, then into n. Now this int and this int and data type of P has to be same. This int star is nothing but we can say it's a typecasting. Okay. So what is typecasting? We will discuss later. But typecasting means actually forcefully it convert it to some int pointer, as simple as that. Int star means int pointer. So and this malloc function is taking input the size of the thing, and size of the thing I have actually defined in two ways. One is size of the data type and the number of elements that I want. Now since this n will vary, depends upon user to user, that's why I can say I can declare this memory location dynamically. So that means due to this n, if I consider n is 4, n is 5 or n is say 4, so that means these 4 memory locations consecutively will be allocated dynamically, whose address, say suppose it is 100, it is 102, then it is 104, it is 106. And it is pointed by what? Pointed by this variable P. So that means if you let's write it again. Main, here I have written int pointer P, then I'm writing P equal to int pointer malloc size of integer into say n. Obviously n has to be scanned over here. So for time being, let's assume n is equal to 5. Okay. And so with respect to memory address, if you see, due to execution of this second line, if I consider n is equal to 5, array of 5 consecutive memory location will be dynamically declared 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and which is pointed by P. So that means if you consider P, what is content of P? If address, suppose it is 100, obviously it is 102. If I consider integer take 2 byte, it will be 104, it will be 106, and it is 108, right? So now what is content of P? This content of P will be the first address of the array, that is 100. So that means if you write P of 1, P of 0, this is equivalent to writing pointer P, because pointer P means same thing, the content, because P contain this one, that means it can control, it can point the first memory location, the content of the first memory address of the array. And similarly, I know P equal to 0 means same thing. Now, if you want to point to the second location, that means somehow this content should be 102 instead of 100. So that means what you have to do, you have to increment this pointer. So that means here I can write P you can write that P equal to P plus 1. If you write P plus 1, since P is an address, automatically it will increment to the next address, that is 102. So after doing this, if you, this P1 is equivalent to pointer P again, because now P has incremented, it become 102. It is no more pointing this location, rather this is pointing to this location. So in this way, I can go through it. And even if after executing or using this particular array that is pointed by P, I can delete this memory address as a whole. And what is the function for that? For allocating the function was malloc. For deallocating the function, there is a function that is called free. Free. If you write free, then P, what will happen? This entire memory location will vanish in runtime, which was not possible in static memory address, memory allocation. So that means free is again an inbuilt function present in C, which take the pointer that actually points to that memory address. Here it pointed by P. So let's see, let's take a very simple one. I mean, let's try to understand this. I have a compiler over here, an online compiler. So let's write this one. By the way, one thing, we have to, just a minute. Yes, I think now it is visible. So we have to use one header file for using this malloc function. That is, so include